to Student Career Studio's Career Chat series. Tonight we have a very distinguished guest, Mr. Jerome Bennett, who is a recruiting lead at Facebook. So excited to talk to him tonight because we have so many students who are interested in Facebook, so I thought it would be great for him to share his journey and share his experience. For those who have joined us before, welcome back. And for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Student Career Studio is a nonprofit organization bridging the gap between opportunities and students and providing access and exposure to various scholarship, internship, and leadership opportunities. This is our career chat speech series where we have professionals share their journey on how they got to where they are today. I hope it provides students as well as professionals insights into career possibilities and really a forum to ask questions and have dialogue, build community, and connect with others across the country in this virtual environment. So if you have any specific questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions in advance. For everyone on the call, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And with that, I'll kick it over to Jerome. So welcome, Jerome.
Welcome. Thank you, Kalicia. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Thanks so much for spending part of your Thursday evening with us. So let's just jump right in. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Facebook.
Great. I'm currently a recruiting lead at Facebook, responsible for a team that is servicing our North American data centers. So a data center is essentially the place where all of our hardware that houses the pictures and videos and things like that. And so we have 16 of them globally. And my team is responsible for the operations. So logistics, so all the components that get to the data center, technical program management, systems engineering. Believe it or not, there's some robotics components in our data center, network engineering. So ensuring that everyone can actually connect to our network more from a network deployment standpoint. And then also some more project management that's a bit more administrative in nature that supports the org. So I've been at Facebook 6 years, not always as a manager or lead, technically management, but it's been a great ride.
Have you always supported data centers throughout your time at Facebook?
Great question. I actually started off supporting our network engineering org, which I know I mentioned network engineering part of data center, but the org that I supported for the first year and a half at Facebook was more on the design and architecture. So building sort of our network architecture and network backbone globally.
Awesome. So what made you get into recruiting? Is that something that you've always wanted to do since you were an undergrad, or was it just something that you fell in love with throughout your collegiate career?
Recruiting found me, Kalicia. I went to school. Well, if I'm completely honest, I thought I would play football in the NFL one day and didn't think too much about what I would do past college. But having earned a degree in business finance, I knew I thought I sort of wanted to wear a suit and tie. So once the NFL wasn't an opportunity for me, or I didn't make it to the NFL, not even close, I set my eyes on what was there. And it happened to be 2008, where we had a bit of a economical downturn due to the sort of housing crisis, and there weren't a lot of finance jobs. And so I was sort of putting my resume out there, and I got very lucky that this staffing agency, which is a recruiting or headhunting agency, office owner, director of business operations, was calling athletic departments, and he was looking for athletes that sort of had that drive and that wanted to, had people skills and leadership skills. And my head coach at the time talked his ear off for about an hour and a half, and I guess he left that call knowing he wanted to hire me. So I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, Jerome, have you heard of recruiting?" And I said, "Recruiting football players to play football with me in college? Sure, but not professionally." And once he explained it to me, I thought to myself, like, hey, I've encouraged high school athletes to come play with me in college, and I felt fairly confident that I could translate that into technology. So that's how I cut my teeth on recruiting.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. So what roles do you recruit for, or have you recruited for in the past?
Yeah, primarily in the infrastructure space. And so that's been the majority. I started off in telecom recruiting. So when I was at the staffing agency, I literally placed the engineers that were putting up cell phone towers for T-Mobile and US Cellular and AT&T and Cricket Communications and Clearwire. And so I was in the Chicago area, and a lot of those companies get contingent labor, and they would Tech Systems was a partner at the time, and I was fortunate to sort of begin finding those skill sets. But to be more specific, I don't know if everyone remembers the commercials where someone was in the car and they were like, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?" These are like drive testers that sort of go on and they make sure that there's cell phone signals in all the neighborhoods. I started off hiring those project managers, sort of cable technicians, similar to the folks that come out and hook up our internet and cable. Um, and so from there, I've kind of hired a lot of different skills: business analysts, project managers, DevOps, systems engineers, network engineers. But my sweet spot has really been in sort of the infrastructure space. At Google, I did hire software developers or software engineers, but that was a short stint.
Okay, yeah, we have I know a lot of students that are interested in all of those areas. So thank you for sharing. So over your
Mhm.
years of recruiting, what are some, I guess, common mistakes that you've seen from candidates as far as like reaching out to recruiters or something on their resume or maybe during the interview process? Can you just share some examples or best practices from your standpoint?
Yeah, common mistakes. I'd say, not some job seekers, they apply to a lot of different positions, and they often don't respect recruiters that much. And what I've seen is that, depending on the company that you work for, the recruiters are sort of great partners to the business. And I say business is like the hiring managers, the people that are actually leveraging recruiting as a service to hire folks. And that's a big mistake. I've been mistreated. I've been talked to like, "Hey, I'm just talking to you so I can get past you to your manager." And I think they fail to recognize that as recruiters, we're often looked at as sort of the front line of ensuring that we're bringing in the right professionals that are um, a fit, for the working culture, the working style, things like that. And so I would say be very nice to your recruiters. Not only can they, give you a lot of good information as you continue to go through the process, they help prepare you, they help give you feedback. They can pick up on cues and how you speak about yourself and how you speak about the work that you've done and really help you throughout the process. And so I would say that's, one mistake. And maybe another is not tailoring a resume for the specific role. It's a misconception that a resume is just sort of there and it's not really used and it's about who you know. Yes, to an extent. However, there are sort of minimum basic qualifications that every job description has. And, as a recruiter, an entry to barrier is seeing what resumes have those minimum basic qualifications. And so you're not doing yourself justice by sort of only having these one pager resumes where you're very high level if you're not tailoring the experience specific to the job that you're actually applying for. So just being informed in what company, what roles you apply to is also something, but just making sure you're able to like apply your actual experience to that role.
Yeah, those are really good points. I also say the same thing to the students who reach out to me. Like, a resume isn't a one size fits all solution, and you really need to put those keywords in your resume. So there's a website called, I think it's called Job Cloud, where you can like upload your resume and then copy paste the job description. So it'll like give you a grade on if your resume is tailored to that specific job. So definitely
Oh,
recommend that as well. Yeah, so there's a few resources out there for that as well. So do you use LinkedIn do you use a recruiter version of LinkedIn?
yes, I do. LinkedIn is a great tool early on. Uh, Depending on the company that you work for, having a LinkedIn recruiter seat was a privilege. Those cost a good amount of money. And when I first began working in this sector, it, not everyone was sure that it was worth the investment. But over the years, LinkedIn's been a great product. Obviously, they're acquired by Microsoft along the way, and which is a huge enterprise company, and they have a lot of great tools. And so it's been a really good tool for me, not only to network for careers, but also to find candidates. So that's definitely one of the recruiting tools that we use, and just the power of connections as well, right? It's interesting in recruiting. Sometimes we are judged based on how many connections we have, because it's sort of this idea that if you're not connecting with people, um, how much are you really leveraging your network to find folks, right? And so luckily I started at a time where I just like sort of accepted anyone into my network, and I saw that as an advantage for me to go out and find other people through their networks. And now I've established a fairly nice network for myself.
So when you're on LinkedIn looking for candidates, what is it? Is there a certain, like, is it their headline, or what is it about their profile that helps them to stand out against all the other candidates? Are you looking at their like experience section, or what sections are most important in your opinion?
You know, it's sort of um, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's changed over time. It's sort of progressed. LinkedIn's progressed. Early on, there wasn't an opportunity for the endorsements, for example, right? So we used to just rely on the title and maybe the description, but there was always this privacy component. You know, similar to social media, not everyone trusted that, folks put the right information in on their LinkedIn. But then very shortly after, when the endorsements and the recommendations start happening, it was almost looked at as like the source of truth. And so at times things would be on resumes, and then you could go to LinkedIn to validate that, because professionals, if they continue to update their profiles, they know that other professionals that may be working with them, their boss, whatever else, could easily see that they may be, embellishing experience, or maybe even not sharing everything, right? And so over time, the tool has become more useful, and I think now we definitely look at sort of recommendations and endorsements. But I think the LinkedIn profiles that resemble a resume are definitely the most effective, because that allows the recruiter to learn right away if you're a match for their role. And at a company like Facebook, I don't know the exact percentages, but we have a fairly large recruiting and sourcing um, employee base or engine that is going out and finding the passive job seeker. So someone that is just maybe just really enjoying their job, but they don't really know what's out there. And so the more information that's on LinkedIn allows us to really be pointed and find the right fit. I'm sure there are recruiters out there that reach out to people and they're not 100% sure what exactly they're doing. It's not their fault, but they see certain keywords in that profile. So even under the skills section, they may see things that are a match. And if that person hadn't updated their resume or LinkedIn in a while, there's a chance that, they may have moved on from engineering to program management, and the recruiters sending them a job description for, engineering roles. So
I'm so glad you touched on recommendations in the skills section of LinkedIn, because I feel like the skills section is so underutilized. But I always encourage people, like, get a group of friends together. You all just go endorse each other for different, skill sets on your LinkedIn page. You have room for 50, so definitely use
oh
those
wow.
skills. And then recommendations as well. Get recommendations from clients, professors, colleagues, coworkers. Use that recommendation section to also give recommendations, but also receive some. So thank you for touching on that, Jerome. I think those are super, super important. So Carolyn is asking, what skills are most sought after for students graduating? Are there any specific skills that you think they
Yeah,
should?
I believe that it sort of depends on the area that you're applying to at any company, right? But I think the great thing about college graduates is that no one actually expects for you to have the experience besides it, maybe an internship. So it's sort of all the intangibles, right? Like how do you problem solve? How do you work well with others? How do you collaborate? How do you communicate? And by that I don't mean how well you communicate, but like how effective And by well, I mean like if English isn't your second language, I'm not really going on that style of communication. I mean like how versatile are you in your communication? Is it only email? Are you, can you actually look folks in the eye and communicate that way? And so I would say just a lot of the intangible skills, in addition to if for example, your discipline is software engineering or any type of engineering, right? Like how great are your fundamentals, right? Like did you actually learn anything in college, right? Are you able to speak to those things, or was it sort of just kind of a blur, right? And so the more you can kind of speak to the technicalities of the role that you're applying to, and the basic fundamentals, kind of the like 101 type stuff, I think the more attractive an employer is going to be to your particular skill set, because they know you took your education seriously. So you'll likely take the sort of the onboarding and sort of the education that you'll get it within the first year or two very seriously as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So how has COVID and the pandemic impacted your work in the recruiting space?
Well, we've been really fortunate at Facebook in particular, because I think in a weird way, people quarantining or staying at home likely means that they're spending a bit more time on social media. And so that meant for us at Facebook that we needed to sort of ensure that the tools and the platforms and the different resources that are available on Facebook were sort of good, and they were running and they were available and they were reliable, right? I mean, there's funny stories out there that some people in rural areas call 911 when Facebook's not working. It's because they're just so used to being able to tap the app and get to the picture or get to communicate with their friends within seconds. So we we're fortunate, one, to keep our jobs, very blessed in that regard. And we, have tried our best to sort of make sure we're building out our products in a way that, folks could, continue to leverage it to either stay in touch with family members, video call with family members, make payments, engage with, different businesses and things like that. And so, I'd say that's been a blessing. To answer your question around challenges, I would say, and particularly in the data center space, these data centers are in more rural areas. And so that often means that we're finding great professionals that are working in more populated cities, that have that skill set. And so we're asking them to relocate a lot of times. For example, like Los Lunas, New Mexico, Altoona, Iowa, Prineville, Oregon. And so not too many people wanted to relocate during a time, right? And so the whole idea of being more remote, and then even doing our jobs remote, everyone speaks about the perks and the office environment at Facebook. It was great, while we had it, but we've all been home, and that means we're confined to this office, right? And I've tried to bring in some Facebook posters that you can see behind me just to kind of recreate that environment that I've been so used to over the last 6 years. But I think that's something that everyone's dealing with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question from Raja. So Raja is a high school senior, and he's asking, what are some things that he could do now before he, enrolls in college in the fall to really set him up for success, for a possible internship?
Oh, Raja, I wish I could go back and be in your shoes. I remember taking courses to understand what my strengths and what my weaknesses were, and what professions were a little bit more in line with sort of those attributes that I had, and never really took it very serious. And so I think I would strongly encourage you to think about what types of professions are of interest. I sort of said that I wanted to be a doctor and wanted to, be in pre-med, but it was very evident once I got to college and was enrolled in pre-med classes that I didn't really have the study habits to be a doctor. And so it's about sort of being realistic, and it's about thinking about the things that you're good at. I really enjoyed Legos. I really enjoyed building things. I really enjoyed doing a lot of that. And I sort of wish that I actually thought about maybe being an engineer. But that's just since I didn't have any family members around me that were engineers, or at least that pushed that on me. I was sort of just had a free slate to do whatever I wanted to do. So if I could do that over again, I would sort of just really think deep and hard about the skills that I want to learn throughout college, and then try to leverage those skills to get into a profession that's really aligned with my strengths.
And earlier you mentioned some of the perks that Facebook had in the office. So can you talk a little bit more about Facebook's culture and some of the perks that you all enjoyed while being on campus?
Yeah, I think I mentioned I've been at Facebook for 6 years. It's the longest place that I've worked. I often joke and I say Facebook's my NFL. So even though I didn't make the National Football League, Facebook's my team, and it's the closest thing that I've had to that, and it feels really good. But our culture is amazing. I mentioned working at a variety of different companies early on, including Tech Systems, Morgan Stanley, and some of those more traditional companies. Um, they sort of had an idea of how you should be as a professional. For example, as a Black male, I didn't have a lot of experience shaving. So starting in sort of that more white collar industry, I had to shave every day, and it was very uncomfortable for me until I actually learned how to shave. But just the whole idea of needing to be sort of a suit and tie guy just to come to work. I used to worry about what shoes am I going to wear, what socks am I going to wear, what shirt does the tie match the shirt, and it's just so unnecessary, right? And I think that's something that Mark, and not just Mark, but a lot of the more tech companies have just sort of flipped on its head. Like, how much energy do you need to spend on what you're going to wear? I love that idea from him. I think for a very long time, he wore a gray shirt and blue pants every day with the same kind of shoes. And he said that the less energy that I could spend on what I wear, the more I could spend on actually building great products, right? And I love that. And so I think the fact that I could be my genuine self, the fact that I could come to work in a hoodie, or I could come to work in Michael Jordan's. I'm a big sneakerhead. There's a huge sneakerhead community at Facebook, and it's cool. We internally we use Facebook, and we have sort of our own sort of enterprise tool called Workplace, and there are all these groups that allow for us to express ourselves. And I think something else that's unique about Facebook is that the majority, at least when I first started, it was very common for you to be Facebook friends with your coworkers, and that meant that they had a chance to look into your life. Like, I've never deleted anything off of my Facebook. I've been on Facebook since 2004. And so any of those coworkers go back and see my growth, can go back and see, where I've traveled to, and, who I dated, or what, they could just see all that, how much fun I had. And so I didn't really have to be anyone different at work. And we call that being genuine selves. I mean, we have our sort of company values are being bold, giving feedback, and sort of being open. And that being open is the same thing that we're asking our users to do. Like, hey, what are we hiding? Let's just be open about what's going on. And obviously I could see, the other side of that, privacy concerns, et cetera. But I just like it, and it fit to me. And it was a place where I didn't have to worry about being the suit and tie guy. I didn't have to worry about being work Jerome. I was able to be myself, and that allowed me to be more effective in what I did day to day.
I absolutely love that. If I could go to work in a hoodie, I would love that.
Yeah.
And so do you all had like meals on campus and
Yeah, sorry. There's so much to share. So yes, I started off in Menlo Park. I'm currently actually in Austin now. I recently relocated to Austin about a year ago. But in our Menlo Park office, it's a campus. I mean, it's highly secure, but once you get in, it was actually sort of designed and architected by like Disneyland architects, and so it feels very much like Main Street. It's very open. I mean, we have like 4 or 5 different restaurants that you don't pay for. You could just go in and stand in line. We had cafeteria style food if you didn't want to wait in line, and we had anything from Asian cuisine to Mexican cuisine to we had a barbecue spot that like you could get collard greens and yams and macaroni and cheese and cornbread and sweet tea. As I'm a foodie, and then we had something called a sweet shop, where you can go in and get frozen yogurt and ice cream and sprinkles, and it was weird, just so
like
spoiled.
any time of day?
Any time of
Oh
day. I'd say
my
around like
goodness.
3 o'clock when people were, low energy, they would just go, sometimes as a team, take walks. It was just kind of open environment where people would just walk and you just see, and depending on the weather, most of the times it's beautiful weather in that area, but you could see the moods of everyone. And it was just very energetic and electric. And it's something I miss dearly now that we're sort of all in our homes. But the perks and benefits are A1. It's been an amazing place to work for me.
That sounds awesome. So I'm assuming you all also had a gym on site to burn off all those calories from eating, right?
Yeah, we had a few different gyms. There was also a pool very close, and every office, every location has something a bit different. For example, in Austin, we have like a music room. We can play instruments, and certain folks that are musically inclined get together. And I think that the beauty of, again, the openness that we have within. I mean, you have thespians, you have comedy groups, you have all these different interests, sports groups and people. I'm a sort of a soccer fan. And so there, when during maybe 1 to 2 p.m. when the European soccer leagues would be playing, folks would go to a specific TV and eat their lunch and just watch the games. And there's sort of this environment where we expect a certain level of professional maturity where someone doesn't necessarily need to stand over you, and you're not punching a time card. And as long as you're getting your job done, it sort of doesn't feel like you need to just be sitting at your desk all day, right? It's like you can kind of get your job done at your leisure, and all the amenities and things that were around are for you, and you kind of got to be mature to manage that time. You have to be organized. I mean, we could get our hair cut on campus. We had a Facebook store where I could. They had flowers, so on like Valentine's Day, I could just go in and grab some flowers and bring it home. We also had shuttle systems and things. Very spoiled. But we have our laundry paid for, and so they try to remove as many as of the things that we deal with in our day-to-day lives to make us more efficient and more effective at work, which is it's been great.
All of that sounds amazing. Monica put in the chat, that sounds amazing. I totally agree. Oh my goodness. Um, wow. So I'm sure you all have employee resource groups and different
Mhm.
diversity initiatives at Facebook. Can you speak a little bit more on the diversity at Facebook?
Yeah, diversity is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and so joining, I left a company called ThoughtWorks, and I joined Facebook, and they really grounded me in a lot of different ways, and so I sort of joined Facebook with a passion and sort of helping bridge the digital divide, and sort of helping bring to light a lot of the social issues and sort of inequities. And I think Facebook being open, it really gave me the platform to have an impact. An area that I'm particularly proud of at Facebook. Not the only one, but one that I'm proud of is that we were already establishing sort of Black communities. We were establishing Latin communities. We were establishing like women communities to sort of go and like create awareness. But there was the veteran community that no one had really like built out or tapped into. And I'm a Army brat, so my father was in the military. I was born and raised in Europe as a result, and so I have siblings that were in the military, and it was just dear to me to give back to all of our veterans, right? And after the war and everything, a lot of them, were looking for opportunities, and they largely go to sort of the government, private sector, I think it's called. And a lot of tech companies wanted to leverage those skills, those leadership skills, the technology skills and things. And so I was a part of a group that sort of established a Facebook group called Vet Working in Tech. And through that, we connected the veterans at Facebook with the veterans out there in the world that were curious about careers in tech, and helped them with resume creation, because the military resume looks a lot different. And there's a lot of intersectionality within veterans, right? And so it allowed for us to kind of continue to recruit and bring in skills and sort of help do a bit of social good, I would say, as well, looking out for our veterans. But in general, Facebook gets a bit of heat, and I'd say, internally, I really strive to be a part of the solution. And that's what sort of kept me committed to the company. And we have this very cool thing where on Thursdays, it used to be Fridays, but on Thursdays or once a week, Mark or Cheryl get up in front of everywhere at one, and we have Q&As and sort of people could preload questions. So whatever's going on, whether it's in the world or within the company, you have a sort of the platform to ask them questions, and they answer right there in front of everyone. And so, diversity has been a hot topic, over the years, and the responses and some of the moves that we've made internally have been great. And I'm just particularly proud as a Black employee at Facebook. Our employee research group is strong, and even sort of the feedback that we've given leadership over some of the social issues and decisions, we feel heard, and it's been great. And so internally, I would just have to say that it might look grim from the outside, but from the inside, I feel very blessed to get the support that we've gotten over the years.
I love to hear that. That's so cool how they do a weekly Q&A. That's a lot weekly. And I'm sure people have really good questions, and I'm sure it helps with the transparency, from the top down. So I definitely appreciate that for sure. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out to anyone listening?
Yeah, for sure. I think, as a recruiter for Facebook, I would encourage anyone that's interested in careers to visit our career site. I would encourage you to look at people that you went to high school with, or maybe that you went to college with, or professors, and see if any of them worked, not even just at Facebook, but even for any companies that you desire to work for, and leverage those people to help you get a foot in the door. We happen to be in some tough times in regards to employment right now. And, I think the people that go above and beyond to be seen, or be noticed, are the ones that are getting the opportunity. So I wouldn't just sit behind an application. I would reach out to people. I would see if there's a connection. I would see if anyone would be willing to introduce you to someone that may be at the place of that you'd like to join. And don't be afraid to sort of ask. The worst thing that can happen is someone say no. So that would be my biggest advice. And just kind of do your own research, and look at the career site, and find out as much as you can, just to be prepared for each and every interview.
Excellent point to end on, because that's what I say all the time. Don't just apply online and wait for an answer. Apply online, go network on LinkedIn, find recruiters, find hiring managers. Just put yourself out there. You never know
Oh yeah.
you never know who someone else knows, and just start building
And
relationships.
be creative too, right? I mean, be creative. I think on LinkedIn, I read about the copywriter that Venmoed a writer like a $50,000 request for his salary to be this writer's copywriter, right? And I believe that the story ended with that person getting an interview. And I think those are just some really creative ways, to get someone's attention. I think the hiring managers are oftentimes not as busy as you think, and they might be staring at their computer screen, and get a sort of a LinkedIn email or note that says, hey, it looks like this role may be on your team, and here are my qualifications. I'd love to grab a cup of coffee. Or you look people up based on the job title of the role. You take the job title that you're interested in and put it in LinkedIn, and see if there's anyone that or you check out their career path, or what they've done to get there, and see if it resembles what you've done, and kind of use that to get ahead in the process.
Absolutely. We do have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I'm here for more questions, so I
Kevin is
have time.
saying, sorry. Kevin is a college senior, and he says, what advice can you give college graduates who will begin their careers in tech?
I think everyone going through college and high school, and the younger generations are our future, and I think I'm just very excited to see what they all bring. And my biggest advice would be to be bold, challenge the status quo, think of some of the greatest applications and some of the greatest products that we use now have come through innovation, right? And we came from a lot of for example, our parents, Calicia, they came out of a little bit of more of the industrial ages, right? Working in factories and things like that. And obviously the higher educated ones were doing other things, but it's, it's sort of the internet age, it's the technology age, it's about the cloud, and it's about all these different things. And so just using your creativity to challenge the way things are. And especially as an engineer, right? There's, think about the Lyfts and the Ubers and all these apps, and, the Zooms, and, even like Facebooks, right? Like, we weren't doing that before. And it was because some really brilliant, engineers came about and solved for efficiency and creativity to bring these great products to light.
Yeah, on that note, have you seen a lot of people at Facebook, work at Facebook, build a skill set, and then like go and start their own startup or software company?
Mhm. Oh yeah, and not even just at Facebook, at other companies that I've worked at. I think the more experience that you get, I think working for a company gives you um, sort of a good foundation of how to build a company, what the functions of a company are. There's so many different aspects to having a company, not just sort of the sales and the business and HR functions, but there's a lot of other things that kind of you know come with it as well. And so I've seen, I've definitely seen people do things like start their own dog walking businesses that were like my peers, but then I've also seen engineers create services. And I think one cool thing that a lot of tech companies do is they do hacks. And, we have, sort of monthly or quarterly hackathons at Facebook, and some really cool products, some of the ones that we use or folks use or really enjoy came out of a few great minds putting their heads together and thinking about something that hasn't been done that was very capable of being done. And now we enjoy them on a daily basis.
That's awesome. Yeah, I participated in one hackathon. I thought it was pretty cool, very creative, innovative space. So I actually had a good time. Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I've had an opportunity to work on some hackathons as well, and I'm not technical, but
yeah,
it's cool, right? Like, you'll be surprised. Not, engineers are engineers at times, right? And I think they sometimes appreciate, working with non-engineers because it helps them see things from a different perspective.
right, exactly.
And so,
Awesome. So Michael, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I did have a question. Actually, I will be interning with Facebook this summer. Very excited to get the offer. But I wanted to ask, on the lines of an internship as a recruiter, what advice would you give to a student that's trying to make an impact in the short 10 to 12 weeks that they have in that new environment?
well, first, congrats on landing an internship. I think once you start, you should definitely send me a note. It'd be cool just to kind of connect with you, Michael, and maybe even be able to help you navigate anything as you're there. So I definitely extend myself for that. But I think it's taking advantage of the opportunity. Um, when you get in, network. First focus on be very eager to learn like what your expectation is. So you're here. What is expected of you, and try your best to lean on your intern manager and mentors about what things that you can do to early on, like within the first week or two, to set yourself up for success. And by that I mean even organizational skills, right? Like, there are a lot of distractions at Facebook. We use an internal Facebook, and so you'll probably be a part of like 6 or 7 groups, and you'll get notifications, and you'll want to look to see what people are talking about. And sometimes you just need to shut some of that off and focus on what's ahead of you, and maybe have some additional time at the end of the day to go kind of browse the web, the intranet, to see what's there, right? And so I think people at Facebook have been my greatest asset. Some of the people that invested in me early on helped me adjust to being in California, helped me adjust to being at such a progressive tech company that moves fast. Um, or are the reason that I've been able to continue to, work there. So I think, get in, build some relationships, make sure you know exactly what's expected of you, take it serious, and have fun, enjoy, take it in. Like, I think there are a lot of people that apply for these roles, and I think you're truly fortunate to have that opportunity to work at such a great place with so many smart people.
Thank you. That's a great answer.
Yeah,
Looking
I love
forward
it.
to hearing
I love
from
that
you, Michael.
response. Yeah, congrats, Michael. Congrats. Hope you have a great time this summer.
Thank you.
Michael, just to share, I've had, there's actually a brother out of Michigan. He was actually at Michigan State, so he was a grad intern, and I saw him walking. I was actually on the way to the sweet shop that I was talking about, and I saw him wearing a Michigan State hoodie. And so right away, I'm like, "What up, though?" I'm from Detroit, so I'm like trying to see if I can get a reaction. He kind of looked at me, and probably thinking to himself, like, first week at Facebook, like, someone talking like that, and right away we made a connection. He also played football, and his name was Charles, and he not only did he do a great job during his internship, but I made myself available to him, and I was sort of someone that he could lean on when he had questions and he felt like he didn't have any other allies to kind of to chat with and bounce ideas off of, and he ended up actually going back, finishing up school, and he joined Facebook, and it was just really rewarding. I stayed in touch with him. I'm happy to see people from Detroit doing well, and it was very cool to sort of have impact on him while he was in his internship, and now call him an employee. So hopefully something similar like that will happen for you.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna send you a message right after this. So.
Please do.
Yeah, this is all about building community, making connections. That was gonna be my next question, Jerome. Is it best for people to just connect with you on LinkedIn or send you a message on LinkedIn?
Sure. Please feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll give everyone a heads up. Don't be offended if I don't get back to you right away. I have a family, but then also at work. That's the thing about Facebook, right? It's definitely a great place to work. I love it. But it's a reason why we've been, the company that we've been, and we've performed well, and we work hard. We have great work-life balance, and things like that. It's kind of for you to call that, but sorry, I went on a tangent. But I'm also busy, so don't hold it against me if I'm not as timely as you'd like. So, but please do reach out.
Well, thank you, Jerome, so much. I've learned so much myself, and I hope everyone on the call did as well. By the way, happy early birthday. I know your birthday is tomorrow, so I hope you have an awesome birthday. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Go follow Student Career Studio, connect with Jerome, and we will be back next week with Michael, who is a student at Georgia State, who received over 30 internship offers for summer 2021. So be sure to come back next week, same time, and learn more about how you can stand out in the recruiting space. So thank you so much, everyone, and see you next time.